acceptance starts with us. See the world, we want to see light. Stand up for others when they can't fight. Open up and let them in. We can't let the darkness win. Starts with us. Starts with us. Starts with us. Talk about change, we think we need it. What's gonna change if we just tweet it? We're so connected with our phones, it just makes us more alone. Walk down the streets and blur our faces, shadow by dark and familiar places. Here we blind to reality, change the rules, gain humanity. Starts with us. 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 We've come too far to turn back now. Can't let the past repeat. We've come too far to turn back now. The future's at our feet. It starts with us. Starts with us.
Be a leader.
Starts with us. Starts with us. It starts with us.
So we're going to bring up one of these entries at a time, and they will read their essay. Remember, the essay, the written essay, is most important, but this vocal participation is also a significant amount of how the judges will be judging this. The first one to come up is Zachary Holtz. Zachary, come on up here. Zachary, you are a junior at Gilmore Academy,
I am.
and you're much taller than I am for a kid. That's great. You are a leader of your school's drama, speech, and debate teams,
Yes, absolutely.
and you contemplate a career in psychiatry.
Yeah. I mean, ever since I was a little kid, I was like fascinated with the human mind and all that cool stuff. So yeah.
Well, before you begin, I'm going to ask each and every one of you one question that sort of will reveal your persona as a potential psychiatrist. You know what I'm talking about. So here's the question.
Sure.
Zachary,
Yes.
if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be? And then after that, begin your essay.
Sure. So, if I had to live anywhere in the world, wow, I'd say I'd probably live in Canada, which I guess sounds kind of weird just at first, but you know, there's that kind of stereotype that Canadians are like, oh, peaceful, and they say sorry for the smallest little things, but I don't know, whenever someone says that to me, I'm like, that's really awesome, actually, that they do that. So I just like that whole vibe, the peaceful, accepting. You know, I feel like I am kind of Canada if Canada were a person. I say sorry if I see someone in the hallway. I'm like, sorry. So, yeah. My brother and I were practically attached at the hip growing up. But I had never seen him cry so hard. I learned that earlier that day in school, Nick urinated on himself in front of his entire class after his teacher relentlessly belittled him for his inability to comprehend her lesson. She questioned why he couldn't just make himself focus, why he couldn't understand her like everybody else. It wasn't until this moment that he and I fully recognized the apathy and misunderstanding faced by people with autism. Autism is, by definition, a disability or a disorder, but to me, my brother didn't have any sort of defect. The sheer quantity of information Nick was able to retain always baffled me. He could illustrate the rich history of ancient India in astounding detail, analyze Michael Jackson's career and the stories behind his greatest hits, and even recite the lines from somewhere around 50 movies from start to finish. Despite his amazing capabilities, Nick was no stranger to being bullied. Kids would poke fun at him for his quirky individuality and his enthusiastic authenticity. Admirably, he wouldn't let their negativity get to him. You can't expect all children to understand the effects of a neurodevelopmental disorder. But how could a teacher who Nick looked up to for guidance and knowledge be so insensitive and cruel about the cognitive struggles he faced? Many people treat autism as a disastrous condition, which prevents those afflicted from living a life with any modicum of normalcy. People stare at autistic kids with pity in their eyes, hoping that one day they will get better. But until then, they are just another hopeless case, someone who won't be able to contribute to society. After tutoring children with mental disabilities for over 3 years, I have come to realize that so many children, so many beautiful minds, are simply ignored because society stigmatizes their struggles. How can we continue to spread messages of love, equality, and acceptance when we barely treat people with autism like the full human beings that they are? It is so easy to fall into habits of indifference and exclusion. However, by challenging meaningless judgment and starting conversation, the exclusionary stereotypes associated with autism can be transformed into loving and engaging connection. In my own life, I have seen the impact that loving, encouraging connection can have. For the past 4 years, I have helped organize events which have raised thousands of dollars for autism research with the Autism Society of Greater Cleveland. These events have shown me how putting aside stereotypes and having meaningful discussions can promote a more positive, accepting view of autism. I plan on continuing to urge people to stop turning their heads and to start opening their hearts. Because in giving a moment of attention and empathy, preconceived notions of uselessness and abnormality vanish. What remains is a full human being. And human beings want nothing more than to be valued, accepted, and understood. Thank you.
Thank you, Zachary. About 50 years ago, we had our second child, and we were committed to name him Zachary. But 50 years ago, there were no Zacharys around to speak of. We chickened out, didn't we? He became Danny. Well, right now, Courtney Reed, where are you? Come on over. This microphone is waiting for you. Courtney, I understand you're a junior at Hawkins School.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Oh, good. And you like volleyball, reading, and writing.
Yes, sir.
Good for you. I don't know what this one means. Tutors with Refugee Response. Want to tell us about that briefly?
Sure. Yes. Last summer, I was inspired to give back to my community, and I really wanted to get in touch with the diversity in Cleveland, so I joined Refugee Response, and I tutor a little girl from Nepal. Her family is refugees, and it's become more of a sisterly bond more than a teacher tutor type of thing. We hang out, I show her cute videos. It's like really fun. So it's a tutoring opportunity that I do weekly.
Sounds great. You're to be commended for that.
Thank you.
My question was sort of on the edge of that. It was all of us at one time or another, if we're lucky, we get inspired to do something special in our lives. So I'm going to ask you the question, what inspires you? And then afterwards, begin your essay.
Thank you. What inspires me? I think it's more of a who inspires me. I would say my mother, primarily. 'Cause she tells me stories of how hard it was for her to get the education she needed and to go to college. She didn't have anyone to help her go to college. And I have this class at my school, it's called College Forum, and they help us with essays, they help us with the process. Everything is basically handed to us. And because she went through that struggle in her childhood to take me to Hawken, to give me that opportunity, everything is packaged neatly for me, and it's easier. It's not easy because the college process is grueling, but it's not as hard as it could have been if she did not work so hard when she was younger, and now. Okay. I was trying to remember the last time I had experienced an act of racism, and I realized I couldn't remember a single incident. Sure, questionable things have happened to me, but I never blamed racism. It's easier to believe that someone's having a bad day rather than they're racist. I often make excuses for people in order to avoid that internal dialogue about whether or not an act is racist. I struggle to believe that I am a victim of racism. I think it's because I'm afraid. I'm afraid of being black in America. I've always believed if I ignored my blackness, other people would too, and I'd be safe. Growing up, I didn't necessarily treat others unfairly because of their race, but I truly hated myself because of mine. I erased any evidence of race from my mind. I diluted certain parts of my personality in order to blend in. I didn't want to justify the stereotype that black children were unruly and disrespectful, so I was quiet and obedient. I never left the house looking sloppy. I straightened my hair. I made my voice higher when I spoke. I tried to be approachable and happy. Every little thing I did was to distance myself from what I thought it meant to be black. At a predominantly black school, I thought if I didn't look like them or talk like them, then I wouldn't be treated like them. Fear and hatred correlate. I was filled with a hate of being black because I feared being black. It was toxic. I had subconsciously fallen victim to society's collective judgment about my race. When I was accepted into a predominantly white private school, my self-hatred increased. It was harder to ignore my racial identity when I was the minority. I further internalized the superiority of white people and aspired to be like them. As my regard for white people and white culture grew, so did my hate for myself. Not until I took a course on racial identity during my junior year did I realize what I'd been doing to myself. I had spent valuable adolescent years feeding my self-hatred. What initiated this realization was being in a class where I was comfortable talking about race in our society. Through honest discussion and reflection, things began to make more sense. I realized during all my time at school, I hadn't had a safe outlet to explore why I struggled with my racial identity. Schools need structured places where conversations about race and identity can take place. I gave a formal presentation to teachers and administrators about the necessity for students to be able to talk comfortably about race and identity. It's an essential life skill if we want to be truly prepared for an increasingly diverse world. As a result, my school is discussing the implementation of affinity groups. Providing opportunities for students to learn how to talk comfortably and share their experiences is imperative to healthy development, because self-hate is just as toxic as any other. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. I hope I can pronounce this correctly. You'll chastise me if I don't. It's Moo-Chang. How badly did I do?
It was good.
Oh, okay. Thank goodness. Well, you're a senior at Gilmore Academy, and you're editor of the school's literary magazine, which is
I
great.
am.
Yeah, you're enjoying it?
I am.
Wonderful. You play the violin?
I do.
How long have you been playing?
10 years.
Oh, you beat me. I only played for about 4 years.
That's fine.
And then I took up the harmonica.
Good for you.
The goal is set for yourself says here that you want to become a human rights lawyer. Is that true?
That's correct.
Why?
After everything I've seen in my own country, I've came to the conclusion that there's so much to be done about human rights and everything about it.
Isn't this phenomenal? For those of us who have question marks about the coming generation, it's washed away. They are terrific, all of them. Now, what do you watch on television, if any, and why do you choose to watch it? It's all yours.
That was a great question. So, to be honest, I am a Doctor Who fan. And that's not because I'm into sci-fi or fantasy film. It's more because I am very interested in time. I want to know about time and how it's intertwined with human. And is there a way we can find out, maybe in the future, a solution to all the problems? And that's why I like Doctor Who. All right. If you can't vote, why do you care? My friend looked into my eyes from across the lunch table, bewildered. I knew he did not mean to offend me with my immigrant status, yet I still felt a hefty sense of discrimination that oppresses my rights. As the whirlwind of 2016 presidential election forced on, I almost received like questions on a daily basis. However, rather than giving in to questions and doubt, I plodded along with the weight on my shoulders in search for full-fledged answers. In pursuit of a rigorous education, I came to the States at the age of 15 alone. Before long, I recognized my place in journalistic publication and major think tank reports. A foreigner, an immigrant, and a racial minority. Intrigued by identifiers as such, I read extensively and researched profusely on the concept of the first multi-racial democracy in human history. I admired the nationwide endeavor to combat racial prejudice and full-scale social movement to ensure equality. And just like many others, I could not resist America's glamour and was enthralled by the hope and opportunity that dazzle in her promises. But why do I care? Since I can't vote. The question from my fellow friends clouds the glimmer. It reflects their narrow definition of democracy and the pre-established idea that immigrants do not deserve representation. They assume that voting is a privilege reserved for a certain majority and overlook common democratic values countries around the world look up to. In this time of difficulty, I understand where this mentality comes from, and in fact, because of who I am, I understand more. Pervasive nihilism and unprecedented polarization have severed the push for betterment. But that is not the reason for further division. That is the reason why people like me care, regardless of voting. I care because democracy is more of a social system. It's an idea, a choice, and a conviction. I care because democracy transcends language, political apparatus, nationality, or culture. I care because the practice of democracy permeates throughout our everyday lives, and every single one of us is obligated to fulfill its promises. Knowing that, I was not deflated. Instead, I infused this understanding into my work and study. I registered voters at my high school, made over 2,000 phone calls over the span of 2 months, and canvassed 300 households to mobilize the constituent base. My power of persuasion often comes from my comprehension of a true democracy and its electrifying power to advance human society. I cannot vote, but I have a voice. And my voice will ascend louder and louder in debate rounds, classroom discussions, as well as advocacy for human rights. And I will continue to go on, knowing that even though I may not see the morning, I have helped to guide others through the night. Thank you.
These youngsters don't know what the order is and who's going to be speaking from time to time. So I'm going to tell now M7 Richmond, you're next. Welcome. I bet you play basketball.
I do.
How about football?
I play football as well.
Oh my, the Browns need help.
That is true.
You volunteered for the REACH program, helping young African American students get a head start academically.
Yep.
That sounds interesting.
It was an awesome summer experience that my school gave me the opportunity to do, and something I was very excited to do over the summer.
That's great. And you're contemplating a career in business or economics.
Right.
Tell me why.
Honestly, you know, university school has really sparked my interest in going into entrepreneurship, business, economics, because I mean it's always something that's kind of fascinated me to see the corporate world, see things from an economic perspective, in my worldview and in my daily life.
Sounds good to me. Well, what is the hardest thing about being in high school today?
Wow.
You can work with that one for
Okay,
a while.
I will. Yeah, well, I guess when it comes to, the hardest thing about being in high school today, it feels like you gotta take 6 APs in 1 year, you gotta make sure you do every single affinity group and be the head of 4 of them, and make sure you do every single sport to the best of your ability, but you end up losing yourself in the process. You forget who you actually are, because because sometimes it's easy to fall into the trap of not actually enjoying any of them. I think the biggest challenge that I've faced in high school is enjoying the things I do, enjoying the life I live, and being thankful for everything that's been given to me through my parents, through my family, and through my friends around me. My grandparents' love for people is conditional. It comes with the condition of being Jewish. Technically, I am Jewish by blood, but my skin color and my religion prevent me from being a part of their love. It does not matter what I do. To them, I will always be the product of Hitler's work. It's my mother's fault. She was allowed to be friends with anyone she wanted, but there were restrictions on whom she could love. She loved a man who did not fit those restrictions, and their differences kept them apart. She grew up in a stable Jewish household. He was the 7th child of a single black mother. Her family was educated. His was not. She grew up wealthy, and he fought for every penny. But these weren't the only differences. The important difference was this: she was Jewish, and he was not. My father was everything that my grandparents feared, a man they could not control. A 2-sport college athlete, a graduate of the Wharton School of Business, and a gentleman who knew how to treat women with the respect they deserve, and none of it mattered. He was deemed unworthy to love my mother because he was not Jewish. On her college graduation, my mother was given an impossible dilemma. It's us or him, my grandparents said. It's your culture or your love, your tradition or your freedom, your past or your future. My mother chose him. My mother's decision was unforgivable. Her decision cost her children the chance to know their family. With that decision, she betrayed the parents who raised her, the brothers who loved her, and the culture that forged her. It would be easy to hate my grandparents the way they hate my mother and father. I could use their hatred as an excuse to say that I am forever bound to feel sorry for myself because of my race and my religion. But I refuse. I will not apologize for being my parents' son. My grandparents did not love me first, but I will love them, even if I never have the opportunity to meet them. Because my mother overcame their hatred with love, overcame their desire to oppress with her desire for freedom. She chose her future over her past, and I choose to follow my mother's example. My mother has sacrificed more for me than I can ever imagine. Her sacrifice is my motivation. Mom, you are the reason that I am not afraid to be who I am. This year, I founded the Fellowship of Christians of University School to help kids feel welcome in their faith and not be afraid to explore it in a school environment. I have also volunteered at a summer program at my school called the REACH program that helps young African American middle school and intermediate students get a head start academically. I hope that through my actions to fight discrimination, I can make a difference for my race and my religion. Thank you.
Sometimes it's hard to believe they're just kids in high school. Thank you so much. Well, next up is Tana Cisco. Tana, hi. Welcome. I understand you're a junior at Brush High School
Yes.
and that you like playing basketball and singing. What kind of singing?
Well, I'm in brush choir currently. I was in show choir, but I switched to just choir.
And you enjoy it, of course.
Yeah, of
That's
course.
wonderful. But yet, by the same token, your favorite subject, I understand, is math. Tell me why.
I really like to think and use my mind a lot. So math is a really good struggle for me.
That's wonderful to hear things like that, isn't it? It's great. And it says here that you hope to pursue a career in the medical field. Well, the medical field is broad. Have you decided anywhere where you would like to narrow it in?
I'm torn between a pediatrician or an OBGYN.
Oh, pretty much in the comparable
Yeah.
areas. That's wonderful. Well, many of us have had mentors in our lives, someone who has guided us in that respect. Have you ever had a mentor?
No.
Well, tell us about it and what it has meant to you, and then you can read your essay.
Thank you. Someone that I would like to consider a mentor in my life would be my father. My father has always guided me into the right direction and has tried his best to lead me into a bright, successful future. So to him, well, to me, he is my mentor in my life. If you leave me, I will kill myself, my abuser pleaded. But to me, it was yet another assault. Throughout our relationship, emotions of fear, guilt, and pain overpowered me. I was constantly taking responsibility and blame for his actions. It was my fault. It's always my fault. It will always be my fault. These thoughts haunted me daily. My self-esteem shrunk to accept what I thought I deserved. For over 2 years, my abuser controlled me. The cuts and bruises covering my body were a constant reminder. I was scared, but I could not escape. I could not be the reason he killed himself. I could not live with that guilt. His pain seemed more important than mine. It wasn't until he pinned me against the bathroom window, his hands tightly wrapped around my neck while I screamed for help, that I realized I do not deserve this. According to the Domestic Abuse Shelter, domestic violence is the leading cause of injury to women between the ages of 15 to 44. Why don't these women leave their abusers? Fear and guilt. Women fall prey to their abusers' hurtful and persuasive words and stay quiet about their suffering. just like I did. I always thought to myself, next time, I'll just be a little nicer and maybe he won't get physical. I tried coming up with every excuse to justify his actions. I allowed him to be the victim. I never thought that the moment I felt the most fear would be the moment I made my smartest decision. I pressed charges. I went through a 10-month court battle to seek justice. When I first pressed charges, I was relieved. Soon after, however, I was terrified. Terrified to sleep in my own house. Terrified that the police would not believe me. Terrified that my abuser would come back for me. I remember the first time I saw him in court. I could not think straight. With months passing by and constantly repeating my story in detail, I thought I was losing my mind. I felt broken. 9 months into my court battle, I finally started to feel free. I realized the importance of pressing charges. Not only did I help myself, but hopefully, I helped the next girl he chooses to date. I was lucky. I spoke up before it was too late, but according to the domestic abuse shelter, approximately 4,000 women do not. It does not have to be this way. Women are strong. We should not let a man take away our power. We should not let the fear of what may happen stop our demand for justice. As horrible as my experience was, I am grateful. Today, I am able to help and advise people dealing with domestic violence. I am now smarter going forward with new relationships. I have realized my full worth. Never again will I allow a man to control me. 3 to 4 million women are beaten every year. I am glad I am no longer one of them. Thank you.
All I can say to those of you who are judging, I'm glad I'm not one of you. I could never, ever pick one out so easily. It's going to be difficult and wonderful at the same time. Next, Bryan Muset. Bryan, you're a senior at Shaker Heights High School,
That is true.
and you enjoy playing the guitar and writing songs.
Yeah, it's a big passion of mine. Since freshman year, I picked up the guitar and I've been hooked on it ever since. I've just annoyed my attendants downstairs because we live in a duplex. Everyone just gets mad at me. Like, my parents get mad at me, my siblings get mad at me, everyone gets mad at me. Like I can't catch a break. I can never catch a break with
nobody is mad at you here. As a matter of fact, if you want to sing one of your songs or tell us a little about one of them that you like, please go ahead.
I wrote a song. I don't like to share. I don't like to share them, but I generally like to write songs about stuff that I experienced in my childhood or teenage years. And I like to share them on Facebook or YouTube. And not a lot of people use Facebook anymore, but so at least I get some viewers there.
Well, it says here that you want to become an anesthesiologist, and why?
I wanted to become an anesthesiologist because just the relief from seeing people being relieved from pain is just one of the most rewarding experiences that you can see, honestly.
And they can't fight back, they're out.
Well, that's true.
You're going to go to Bowling Green State University?
Actually, not anymore. As of March 18th, I accepted a offer from Boston University, which is where I'll be attending in the fall.
Good for you. Well, Bryan, all of us have possessions of different kinds. What is your most treasured possession? And then you can read your essay.
Thank you. Well, I would have to say that my most treasured possession is my family's photo album. You'd think I would say my guitar, but those are expendable. Like, I can just get those anywhere at any guitar center. But a photo album contains all your memories from years back, and you can't get those back. You have your memories, but they're dependable. They're not dependable. So a photo album contains all those things that you need to remember back and recall the good times that you had years ago. It was in 4th grade when I started hearing the clicks. Careful and distinct, yet carried a mirthful rhythm. How disturbing! I turned around to inspect the clock, the likely culprit. Nope. The clock read 1:03 p.m. and didn't skip a beat. Puzzled, I ignored the sounds and resumed coloring. Yet, the clicks persisted and merely grew louder the more I tried to tune them out. Annoyed, I determined that the source was not the clock, but rather 2 boys behind me, their giggles betraying them. "Knock it off," I said, trying my best to sound intimidating. "Come on, you're from the jungle," said the first boy. "Don't pretend like you don't know." He proceeded to show me the drawing. Bryan the Jungle Boy, his humiliating caricature of me was entitled, complete with pitch black skin, red inflated lips, and a monkey tail. "That's you," the second boy sneered. "Say ooh ooh ah ah for me, Jungle Boy." Confused and hurt, I ran outside, tears streaming down my face as my teacher clumsily tried to console me. After that innocence shattering experience, my societal disadvantages quickly became apparent. Would I be the kid parents tell their children not to bring home for playdates? Would I be labeled the unintelligent or underachiever kid of the class? Would I ever be happy being black? As a son of Nigerian immigrants, I was a pariah. The white community didn't understand me, and the tiny African American community scoffed at my dark skin and primitive customs. Things changed when I moved to Shaker Heights. While the much more diverse student body helped me feel less insecure, it was an organization of diverse high school students, the Student Group on Race Relations, or SCORE, that made me come to terms with my racial identity. As an elementary student, SCORE pierced my toxic narratives with a radical message that my race does not define me. It directly challenged everything that I'd ever known about myself, that I was stupid, ugly, and would never achieve anything. SCORE affected me so much that I vowed to become a member someday. I realized that nobody deserved to suffer the way I did. When I joined the program years later, I always make sure to tell my clique story to my mentees and facilitate a discussion on stereotypes, discrimination, and bullying. It is crucial that students understand that racial harassment, even disguised as teasing, is not acceptable. Through my 3 years of SCORE, it's been the greatest joy of my life giving dozens of little Bryans, confused and hurting, the same helping hand I received all those years ago. And now, I've expanded my horizons by becoming a leader/member of the Minority Achievement Committee and Take Action, student groups that mentor struggling African Americans from elementary to high school in reaching their full academic potential. Maybe it was a good thing I heard the clicks that day. It spurred me to action. Now, no other student will ever have to hear them again. Thank you.
Well, let's see, who's next? I think the name is Aurora Fleming. Where are you? Ah, there she is. Hi, how are you? Good, thanks. Step up to the mic. You're a senior at Bay Village High School,
Yes.
and you love learning new languages. Jak się masz?
I don't know that language.
It's Polish.
Okay.
The answer is dobrze, means good. You play on the Bay High tennis team, and you're interested in a career on international business.
Yes,
Tell
that's
us why.
correct. Well, mostly I think it's the international part of it. Ever since I was little, I've just been so inspired by languages and how languages can connect you with people around the world, and you can get to know them. And also I really like business because America is leading in business, and so really you could go anywhere in the world and use those skills. So I think that'd be really cool to do.
Great answer. Aurora, if you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be? Whoa, that's a tough one.
Whoa. If I could change one thing about myself, I think I would want to be more of a risk taker. And I think a lot of people here would say that. I think it's really, really easy to try to just take a step back and stay in your comfort zone and do what's comfortable for you and others and acceptable. But I really want to try to take that extra step. As I talk about in my essay, I studied abroad last year, and I am proud of myself for that, but I'm excited to do more, and I know that I can do more. So, yeah. It was 1942. My great-grandfather was living in a small farming village in German-speaking Czechoslovakia. He was approached by the Nazi Party, who demanded that he join the Nazi cause. My great-grandfather refused, believing that the Nazis, what they were doing, was wrong. He knew he had to stand up against them. But as a result of this refusal, the Nazis took my great-grandfather's farm and all the belongings he ever had. And worse, they put him, his wife, and young son, my grandfather, in separate concentration camps throughout Germany. It was not until after the war that my great-grandfather searched desperately for his family and finally found them at those camps. They then lived as refugees in southern Germany before they could make enough money to immigrate to the United States. And 70 years later, I myself lived in Germany. Despite my family's tragic experience there, I decided to spend my junior year abroad there. And it was no easy decision. I was really scared. And to top it off, I didn't know anything about the German language, and not one of my friends from my public high school had ever done any sort of foreign exchange before. But as I stood in the Hamburg train station several months into my stay, I knew why I'd come. On that cold winter day in December of 2015, I saw literally hundreds of Syrian refugees huddled on the cold train station floor with little or no belongings. And like ripples on a pond, I immediately thought of my great-grandfather and how he too was a refugee, and he was forced out of his home for what he believed in. And I was flooded with the sense that I must do something to help the blanket injustice these refugees were facing solely because of their political or religious beliefs. So that day, I went back to my family's house, and we gathered clothing and other supplies, whatever we could find, and we brought those supplies back to the train station and then gave them out to the refugees. That experience and my entire year abroad brought global participation and perspective into very sharp focus for me. The problem that I see is that many Americans believe we're insulated from the world, and they advocate disengagement even in the face of huge masses of people being victimized due to their race, religion, or political views. And this view is as dangerous today as it was in the 1930s, putting us at political disadvantages and allowing prejudices to fester. We simply cannot afford the ignorance when the world is getting closer, more mobile, and more connected. I realize now how important it is to encourage and challenge people, particularly my peers, to be global citizens who are engaged with other peoples, countries, and events. After my return to Ohio, I've been working to improve my peers' global engagement through presentations at my high school, particularly our Team Africa group, which advocates for foreign study. I speak so that my experiences may inspire others to engage, and so that our world may ultimately become a smaller and more tolerant place. Thank you.
Aurora was 7th out of the 10 of us, and I've got the 8th one coming up, and her name is Maria Sovani. Maria? Maria, you're a junior at Gilmore Academy.
Yes, I
and
am.
you enjoy English and also photography?
Yeah.
Tell us about the photography.
Yeah, so I've been involved in photography since my freshman year. It wasn't really something I expected myself to go into, but once I did, it really allowed me to have a totally different view on the earth itself and society, and it really gives me a different perspective on all viewpoints of my life and the life around me.
Sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
Yes. Also, you're a horseback rider.
Yeah, I am.
Do you own a horse?
I do.
Tell us about it.
So my horse's name is Donnie. His show name is Black Crown. I do hunter jumper, and I have a competition next weekend, and I'm really excited about it. I've been competing since I was 3 years old, and it's just something for me that's really helped me grow as a person and gain a lot of confidence. And
That's wonderful. Well, you're interested in studying American history and government in college. Do you know what college you're thinking of?
I have a few colleges in mind. I recently visited George Washington University and loved it. I loved the campus setting and how involved you are in the city. I also am interested in seeing Syracuse, but I'm not really sure since I'm a junior. I haven't visited there yet, so we'll have to see.
It sounds like a great time ahead of you to
Yeah,
find
I'm
that
really
school.
excited.
You have a best friend, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Here's a tough question, though. How would your best friend describe you? Oh.
I'd say my best friend would describe me as more of a comedian. I always try to put a smile on their face when a situation is down, or if there's bad energy, I always try to bring the light out of any bad situation. Are you retarded? A phrase I've heard my peers use hundreds of times. One simple word most people don't think about when they use it. Some see it as another adjective for stupid or dumb, but there's so much more to that word. I, too, was someone who didn't grasp the underlying hate that comes from that phrase. It wasn't until I started working at Fieldstone Farm, a local therapeutic riding center for children and adults with disabilities, that I realized every time I hear someone say retard, I am allowing hate a voice. After working at the center for a few months, a girl with Down syndrome tapped me on the shoulder and asked me nonchalantly, "Do you like Justin Bieber?" This ordinary question made me realize, although many people are segregated by labels of disability, race, and religion, everyone has similarities which a label can't break. We all have the desire to belong. The 12-year-old then proceeded to tell me about her teen idol and her favorite songs. This girl doesn't have so little in common with me. We both listen to the same type of music, like the same type of artists, and have a shared interest in pop culture. So why is it that when society senses a hint of difference in a person, they are immediately given a label? If we give in to these preconceived notions of prejudices, they will continue to cause us to degrade each other as long as we let them. With today's fake news media highlighting and encouraging hate, we need a strong leader to guide us. President Donald Trump is now one of the most powerful voices in America. All of his actions are magnified and watched closely by the entire nation. He's supposed to set an example for the men and women of the United States, but instead he satirizes and taunts his peers. I never realized the depth to which Trump could sink until I saw a video of him mocking a disabled reporter with spastic motion. This behavior sanctions bullying based on nothing else but appearance. We have to realize that actions and words hurt, and at this time in history, it is more important than ever for people to speak up about hate. It is the positive feeling I get when helping someone, especially someone others find hard to reach, that intensifies my desire to visit and work with the riders at Therapeutic Riding Center. Every week, I am given the ability to help them improve mentally and physically, and with that comes the mutual satisfaction of helper and helpee. It's easy for someone to say, I won't say retard anymore, but it's more important to interact with the mentally challenged in a compassionate way, making us all one and the same, making us all believers in a world without hate. Thank you.
Well, we have number 9 coming up. That's Jeffrey Gao. I think that's correct. Is that right, Jeffrey? Very good. And you are a junior at Solon High School,
That's correct.
and you participate in the Future Business Leaders of America.
Yes.
Now, my question is, you developed a Heroes of History Club. Tell us what that is.
It's essentially a club in our school that hopes to analyze historical figures who have made an impact in history. This includes popular historical figures such as Martin Luther King, who is also my inspiration and an idol that I cherish because he has made a dramatic difference in how we view minorities and other racial groups in America.
Is this your idea, this concept?
Yes, it is my concept. I've always been fascinated with history, so I felt it was only fit for me to start a club promoting it.
How many people in the club?
It's a new club, so the membership isn't too high, but we have around 20 people.
It sounds great. It's a good start, don't you think? Well, here's your tough one. You may not like this, but it's here. If you could be any animal in the world, what animal would you be and why?
Well, as for the animal question, I would probably become an owl because I know that these creatures, these avian species, are associated with wisdom, as the Greek mythology can testify. So I would also want to try to carry on this symbolism of wisdom that an owl invokes within me. Get the hell off my property, you stupid chink. Go back to China. Go back to your egg rolls. Go back to your ching-chong fried ass. Such icy, repulsive words from my neighbor reverberated in the hot summer night. A 10-year-old child stood traumatized, unable to comprehend such hateful vocabulary. That child was naive. That child believed that the world was inherently abundant with rainbows and acceptance. That child was me. And his utopian world crashed and burned that day. My neighbor had uttered a barrage of racist and antipathetic remarks that left me feeling vulnerable and insecure. I felt guilty. Was I to blame for being different? Was I inferior because I was a minority? I became afraid to speak to others at school, fearing that I would be singled out due to my Chinese heritage. While walking down the hallways at school, I was constantly deluded by the fear that others were mocking and ridiculing me based on my Chinese background. This paranoia contributed to my depression, which has led to constant frustration and despondency. As I matured and learned more about the moral contrasts of tolerance and bigotry, my perception gradually shifted. I realized it was not my fault. It was the interracial misunderstanding and the lack of connection among races that resulted in such ignominious racism. Through his hateful diction, my neighbor revealed a prejudicial mindset that judges individuals based on race rather than on character. That mindset is inordinately wrong. We, as global citizens, have a responsibility to rectify this appalling situation. Thus, I joined the Future Agents in Training program, which is currently affiliated with the FBI Citizens Academy and the FBI indirectly last summer. Through this vehicle, I personally have designed a reading contest, which is currently in progress, for elementary school students in the greater Cleveland area. This contest encourages students to read about prominent civil rights activists, such as Dr. Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks, in order to learn the courageous stories of those who defied the evils of segregation and discrimination because of their fervent belief in a unified, diverse, equal America. This program promotes mutual understanding and respect, demonstrates the irrelevance of inherent arbitrary differences like race in the grand scheme of things, and reinforces a common American identity. Once these children have become educated on these crucial moral principles, they will become more capable of dealing with these discriminatory incidents. Furthermore, they will carry these principles of tolerance and acceptance with them into adulthood, allowing for such principles to permeate through the crevices of everyday society and ameliorate our world. After all, activist Malala Yousafzai once asserted, "One child, one teacher, one pen, and one book can change the world." 7 years ago, I was discriminated because of my race, and I was helpless and scared. Now, I'm fulfilling my duty as a responsible citizen to strive to ensure that no child will have to undergo the same humiliating prejudice that 10-year-old child experienced on that fateful midsummer night. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Well, we're down to number 10, and then the judges will have their say. So right now, speaking to us will be Zephaniah Galloway. Zephaniah, welcome. Good to see you.
Good to see you again.
Thank you. You're a senior at John Hay High School,
That is correct.
and you like literature and gardening. What kind of gardening?
I love urban gardening. For the past 3 years, I've been helping transform empty lots in Cleveland into vibrant gardens. So,
Wow, that sounds phenomenal. What about literature? What do you pick there?
I really love to read books about historically disenfranchised people, such as Michelle Alexander's. She wrote a book about the new Jim Crow. That's what it was. I love that, and I love books on feminism and about Muslim history and just a lot of things that people overlook when they think about what it means to be an American.
Wow, I'm really pleased to hear that.
Thank
I
you.
really am. You have political aspirations.
I do.
Why?
That exact reason. Well, I want to be a voice for those who have not had a voice.
That says it all, doesn't it, in a short sentence? Terrific. Okay, we have one more final tough question. If you could pick one person in history to be in this audience today, who would it be and why? Okay.
So without a doubt, I would definitely choose Michelle Obama because she represents what I am, a black woman trying to make it in America. I love her because she has overcame what it means to be a black woman in America and has shown me that focus and determination can get me wherever I want to go. What does it mean to be black? Is it the clothes we wear or the music we listen to? Is it fitting stereotypes based on negative preconceived notions about my race? This is a question I have yet to answer. It's an identity dilemma I face every time I look in the mirror and ask myself, who am I? All of my life, I've been told the many things black people didn't do. Black people didn't live in two-parent homes or listen to music that wasn't rap. And we definitely didn't care about politics unless President Obama was involved. The most frustrating part about these comments is that they weren't coming from people outside of my culture. They were coming from people that looked just like me. In elementary and middle school, many black students would laugh and call me a closeted white girl or an Oreo because I didn't fit many well-known stereotypes about what it meant to be black. I was vegetarian at the time, couldn't dance, and I listened to punk rock music. When these characteristics became a white thing, I honestly don't know. But I do know that the discrimination and stereotyping of black people has caused many of us to internalize it and continue the very same cycle of oppression in our own communities. So I tried being more black and fitting into the stereotypes placed on my race to fit in. I started listening to rap music, even though I didn't really like it. I watched every single movie on BET. And I even quit my vegetarian lifestyle and replaced it with one of eating fried chicken and watermelon. Yes, hunty, I wanted to be black. However, when I got home and took the facade off, I was left feeling empty. I was acting, and the only award I received was the constant reminder that I was losing myself trying to fit in. This aforementioned thing called my identity crisis. What does it mean to be black? Is it the way my skin absorbs sun rays? Is it the way my hair twists and turns like the Nile River in the land from which my ancestors were stolen? Again, I can't answer this question because it calls on the overgeneralization of over 1 billion people. Overgeneralizations cause stereotypes, and I refuse to be a part of this cycle of oppression. I embrace diversity by emphasizing that it's okay to be different and to accept others. I am an activist that has protested police brutality and racial inequality with the New York chapter of Black Lives Matter. I co-authored a book urging readers to stand against sexism and rape culture. I've attended various workshops held by the Cleveland Diversity Center. And this summer, I will be traveling to Guatemala to help teach students about sustainability while also contributing to a sort of cultural exchange. Because this is who I am. I am more than the color of my skin. Thank you.
Oh, hello, I'm Zeke, and this is DQ Touchstone.
We wrote this song during the election time. We found out 50% of Americans do not vote.
We wanted to motivate you adults to vote, so this is our message to you guys.
I'm gonna send a message, need to listen to me. Adults get to the polls and V-O-T-E. Stop complaining, stop your whining, and take back your country. It's your civic duty, now V-O-T-E. Philadelphia, Mississippi, year of 64. 3 workers were murdered, village troubadours. They were knocking on doors, registering voters, you see. 3 brave, courageous students gave their lives to you and me. I'm gonna send a message, need to listen to me. Adults get to the polls and V-O-T-E. Stop complaining, stop your whining, and take back your country. It's your civic duty, now V-O-T-E. Susan B. Anthony was a fighter, you see. Started suffrage movement, she's a hero to me. Woman could not vote until she made the scene. And okay, maybe you're a hero, but don't forget Susan B. We're gonna send a message, need to listen to us. Get your butts out to the polls, or we're gonna make a fuss. Inclusion, not exclusion. Take charge of your country. It's your civic duty, now V-O-T-E. Half our population never seen a poll. If you don't go out and vote, it's gonna take a toll. Any baker needs your help before it gets too late. We are asking you to step up and help us stop the hate.
Now I'd like to welcome our winners from the 6th to 10th grade. These young people are our future. And of course, we hope to see them up here again. Each knows that he or she is a finalist, but they do not know until their name is read what prize they have achieved. The first place winner from each grade level will receive $400 in a prize. And so we begin with the 6th grade. In 3rd place, Kurt Harris III. In 2nd place, Nicholas Nymek from St. Barnabas Catholic School in North Delaware. And in 1st place, Aparna Shrikant from Portsmouth Middle School in Solon. Okay, now for the 7th grade. In 3rd place, Megan Woolley from Beechwood Middle School. In 2nd place, Emily Bracken from Old Trail School in Bethlehem. And in 1st place, Jeremiah Shepard from Kindle and Boys. Cleveland, Ohio. The 8th grade, in 3rd place, Fiona Mack from Roxborough Middle School in Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland Heights. In 2nd place, Olivia Paley from Constellation Schools, Old Brooklyn Community Middle. And in 1st place, Hannah Samad from Horizon Science Academy. And to the 9th grade, in 3rd place, Laura Nunez Cirillo from Mayfield High School. In 2nd place, Maggie Haw from Mayfield High School. And in 1st place, with a clean sweep from Mayfield High School, Josh Ghosh. In the 10th grade, in 3rd place, we have Zaria Acey from Brooklyn High School. In 2nd place, Bridget Naughton from Kent High School in Rock River. And in 1st place, from Kinston High School, Maya Zafika. Congratulations to all of you. Now, before we let this young group leave the stage, let's hear from this next generation of leaders in their own words as they share short excerpts from their essays.
Human beings want nothing more than to be valued, accepted, and understood.
Discrimination always hurts.
Why does skin color dictate how people are treated?
Racial harassment, even disguised as teasing, is not acceptable.
People are blinded by cultural superiority. Where you're from shouldn't change how people treat you.
Misunderstanding and lack of connection results in racism.
We all feel pressure to conform.
Self-hate is just as dangerous as any other.
There's more to a person than what they struggle with.
It would be easy to hate.
Fear,
Anger,
Bigotry,
Stereotypes, sexism,
Isolation,
prejudice,
indifference,
intimidation,
Segregation,
polarization,
abuse,
bias,
suppression,
bullying,
hatred,
Bystander.
discriminatory,
judgmental,
intolerance.
I am more than the color of my skin.
Gender roles don't matter.
Break down stereotypes.
treat others fairly.
Find your strength.
Speak up before it's too late.
Stick up for yourself and your peers.
Stand up to the haters.
Make sure love wins.
Don't give hate a voice.
Taste your words before you spit them out.
Every one of us is obligated to fulfill democracy's promises.
Be a global citizen.
Make the world a better place.
respect,
Discussion,
Compassion, democracy,
education,
Equality,
diversity,
positivity,
connection,
kindness,
support,
tolerance, acceptance,
praise,
Upstander,
Faith,
Engage.
unite,
open-minded.
It's not them or us.
It's you.
It's you.
It's me.
it's me.
It's me.
It's us.
It's us.
It's us.
It's us.
it's us.
It's us.
Let's talk about racism. People dying on the streets. Let's talk about racism.
We need a solution, so let's start a revolution to stop all the hate before it's too late. Black on black crime, not knowing what's your time, cause cops killing kids and leaving their bodies behind. Racism, people dying on the streets. Let's talk about racism, stray fruit hanging from a tree. Bullets never choose a color, so why should we? It's not just one strange fruit hanging from a tree. It's like 700 strange fruits laying on the street. And when I say laying on the street, I don't mean for a nice little nap. I mean they lay on the street because that cop put that gap in his back. Black boys out here dying while their mothers sitting crying. Stories not to be heard because that white man said it wasn't the good word. Racism.
Well, kids, we're getting close. This is about that time. And I want to just say this to each and every one of you. I am so proud of you. This whole organization is proud of you. Our audience is proud of you. Thank you. Thank you. And now that time has come. And tomorrow you're going to handle giving the checks out and naming what the checks are for. So now, ladies and gentlemen, the very third runner-up and winner of a $5,000 scholarship is, let's hear the drum roll. And the winner is, who's got the winner? Ah, here it is. This reminds me of a TV show. Wasn't there a screw-up there some time ago? Yeah, but we're better than that. Pick that out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The winner of a $5,000 scholarship, Zachary Holtz. And now, the second runner-up and a winner of a $10,000 scholarship. Drum roll, please.
I'm getting good at this.
You want to say that tomorrow? Here, get close to the mic.
Courtney Reed.
And the first runner-up and winner of a $15,000 scholarship is, drum roll please, Tamara. Want me to help you?
Yes.
Miao Muging. Well, it's about that time now. Tamara, are you ready to make the distribution of those funds?
Of course.
You should know something. Years ago, I was producing and directing a radio series. She auditioned for me. She didn't get the part. But I did say, you know, I think I can help you with your auditions in the future if you'd like to stay after the auditions. And you know what happened. This is 66 years later.
That's great.
And now, our only grand prize winner receiving a $40,000 scholarship. And their school will win a $5,000 anti-bias education grant. The grand prize winner of a $40,000 college scholarship, drum roll please, Tamar. Close.
Zephaniah Galloway.
Wendy should come up next.
But the rest of you have not been forgotten. Each and every one of you will receive a $500 for just being who you are. Thank you. Well, Lori, I think we just about done it.
Almost. We just want to also ask for Chandria Smith, who's the principal of John Hay, to also come up here and congratulate all the winners also. There you are. Yay!